But so what we're about now is just trying to help people help themselves. Daycare is huge. When I started, daycare was considered part of the communist plot to break up the American family. Women were supposed to be at home, supposed to take care of their children. The only reason that they weren't doing that was because they either had a failed lifestyle, that, it was before the women's movement, it was before the divorces became easy to get, it was before single mothers having to be socially acceptable to having children in most of the society. All those things started really coming on in the 70s in most of the culture. Depending, of course. I'm painting with a broad brush, but now it's a whole different world. Daycare, which was frowned upon, is now law firms run daycare so they can keep their ones that are striving to be partners working in the office 20 hours a day, and they don't have to worry about little juniors, so they keep them there. They got them in industrial parks. They got them everywhere. Daycare is now a middle class, almost an entitlement. The biggest daycare subsidy that the government provides, not Head Start, not the vouchers for poor people, not the ones to get people off of welfare or any of that stuff. The biggest government subsidy in the tax system is the tax deduction that goes to middle class people, that they can take a deduction on their taxes. It's up to like $500 or $600 a year. It's not much, in the scheme of things. But in total, it's more than all the federal programs to help low income and middle class or working people, more than that subsidy. So even, it's a kind of a quiet as it's kept kind of thing, but it's a big subsidy on the part of the American people that goes to the higher income. So we work now, most of our families in our daycare, most of them just came to the country probably within the last 8 to 10 years from all over the place, but they're mostly people that have come here as part of this most recent immigration wave, trying to make a life in America, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, like got Haitians. The guy says, well, I got a job from 8 to 3 in the afternoon, and I go to the nursing home from 4 to 11, and then I clean buildings. So the guy says, well, when do you sleep? He said, Saturday. I mean, some people are working all the time to make it. So, and the mother and the father and everybody, whatever your domestic arrangement is, everybody's working to pay the rent and try to have a life. So we've shifted to, we didn't shift, we take whoever comes through the door. The population has shifted. Most of the people that grew up around here, went to school around here, they moved out to the suburbs already. That's the way it goes in America. You see every city in the country has people that have just kind of moved through, and it's go west, young man, they used to say in the 1800s. Your life moves out. Everybody wants to have better schools. They want to get away from problems so that kids can be safe. It's just the way people have thought. Who knows what will happen with your lives and the way things go for you, because things are in flux. No, everybody's gotten out of college and nobody's getting a job. I mean, that's the hot topic of the day. People coming out of good schools, in good fields, and because the economy is so lousy and not expanding but contracting, jobs is tough. So you're staying in school longer and more, going home. Everybody's saying they're going off to college. This is it, Ma. Thanks for everything. I'm going off for my own life. 4 or 5 years later, they're knocking on the door. They got the bags in. Well, I can't get an apartment. I can't get a job. I don't have any money. It's like a big deal. You see it. If you see anybody who's interested in this stuff, you read the Census Bureau has all kinds of stuff that you can look up and see about statistically what's happening. The numbers of people who aren't getting married in the way they used to get married, either holding off or not getting married at all, living by themselves, huge numbers. I mean, this is 50 years ago, it was unheard of. You know, I mean, other than a little here, a little there, but now, 40–50% of the people are living either by themselves or just, you know, I did a story in the New York Times the other day, 4 guys, they're all turning 40 years old this year. They've been together since college. Did you see that story? It was a great story. They got their own place somewhere, I don't know, Brooklyn or someplace, and they just, that's it, that's their life. That, you know, they all, you know, the ones that want to get married, they can't get married because they can't afford to, so they just continue to live together. It was kind of cool. They get along, everybody goes their own way, but you know, that's a new thing. You know, if you don't realize it, that's a pretty new thing. So I think Elder Funds, I don't know, did he tell you all the different kind of things we do with the daycare is our strong suit. That's, we opened up the first one way back. We opened up the first full-day daycare center, first Head Start program. We've done so many things over the years, the different kind of programs, almost all with money from the government. I mean, if the government didn't give us the money, we would, you know, we'd be doing something else for work. But the government, you know, we've continued to get contracts. It's mostly contracts. The old war on poverty stuff has dwindled down to just about nothing, but over the years, other things have been built on top of it. We're into, Elder Funds runs a big income tax program in the income tax season. Under President Clinton, they passed the EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit, probably the biggest anti-poverty thing done in this country since the 60s, because it allows people to get money. People get $6,000, $7,000, something, depending on how many kids they have and what their situation is, $6,000–$7,000 in a check right from the government. Clinton threw a curveball right by the Republicans. They didn't even know what hit him. He had them looking over here, and you got the EITC thing over here. The next thing they woke up, and tons of money going to working, mostly low-income working people. I mean, that, you know, that, I think that made it more palatable. That you know, nobody wants to just give you money. You know, back in the 60s, the whole thing was welfare reform, and money was going to people, and you know, the whole thing kind of broke down. And you were encouraged to just go have babies because you get more money, and nobody asked you to go to work. It was like ridiculous as far as, you know, developing human potential. So it kind of went too far, and they worked their way back to the point now where you wonder whether they'll let somebody starve to death before they could get anything in the way of help. It's hard to get things, money for people who don't have anything. We have a food pantry. People come in because they got no food because the money ran out for the month or whatever it is like that. A lot of people have shifted from the welfare onto SSI, which is another program for kind of people with disabilities and broken down family things, and they fund it. So now you see statistics where the numbers of kids on Ritalin and all these other things in society, and get mothers dragging their kids to doctors and all that. Why? Because they can get a check out of it. Because they can't, for whatever reason, can't get a job, don't want to get a job, whatever. Well, there's no welfare. The welfare rolls are just about emptied since Clinton was in the White House because of welfare reform. People find a way to get over, you know, and they find a way to try to, and there's still a lot of people that just, you know, they spend more time trying to connive and find an angle than just, you know, like bite the bullet and go to work and try to, you know, build yourself up rather than just be a conniver by it. I mean, I've seen it all, so, but we don't make any, you know, people come through our door, it's a community center, we'll, you know, we try to help out whoever comes in there. If we have a government program, we go by the rules, you know, you can't show up in our place and say, I want to get into the daycare center and I got no money. Well, what do you mean you don't have any money? Well, I don't have any money. Well, how do you pay your rent? Well, I mean, we ask questions because the taxpayer expects us. I mean, it's all our money goes to all these social welfare things. The money we pay and our parents pay, and you'll pay when you go in, you know, big time into the workforce. Your tax money is going to go to support the goals of the government and try to support programs that help people. So, You want it to, go to the people that should get it. Of course, that raises, I studied this stuff in graduate school, and if you really want to get into it, it goes back to like the Judeo-Christian concepts of charity and philanthropy and all that stuff, and then it goes up to where the real big conversation begins to take place in the Elizabethan age with the poor laws in England and how they began to try to take some social responsibility for beggars and cripples and all these kind of words that they used in those days to characterize people that couldn't fend for themselves. And the whole thing always boiled down to the needy, the truly needy, versus the others. So right away, there's a judgment made about who really needs it and who doesn't. I mean, you can't get much more subjective than that, whether you're an individual like us or you're a bureaucracy of the government. And then it became the deserving or the undeserving, just the same, different words for the same thing. And you'll see, when you follow stuff in Washington and how they try to develop social welfare programs in Washington, they may be using different terminology, but it's always about the same thing. Who deserves it? Who should get it? And a lot of factors enter into that judgment call about who should get it and who should, or what? She had how many kids from how many different guys? Oh, well, we can't give her anything. Why should she? We're going to be rewarding bad behavior. I mean, so all these things come into the part of my little world and the world we work in, where we're trying to work in Allston and Brighton. The neighborhood's changed tremendously over these last few years. Many, many young people, students, the families, a lot of them can't afford to live here because they got to compete with undergrads or people that have finished school and they're living in apartments by themselves. So all these, my lifetime, the families have largely disappeared compared to the way it used to be back in the old days, where a person could, you had one man with a family and he worked and the wife stayed home. Whether that, was the way it's supposed to be, I don't know, but that was the way it was. And people could live on one salary. You can't do that anymore. And now, if you're just a working stiff and you try to compete for a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment against a bunch of college kids or post-grads, you can't do it. A place that should be $1,400, $1,500 is $3,500. So how do you do it? Harvard's the BU's, I'm on the BU task force. I used to be on the Harvard Community Task Force, the Boston Club. It's all the same problem. Harvard was always housed their own students in undergraduate school. Always. The house system is, it's part of the college, part of the whole thing. I mean, even if you don't live, even if you're like a commuter student, they still have a few. Like if you grew up in Austin and I know a kid that he got accepted to Harvard, but he was waitlisted and they didn't have a room for him or whatever. You have to go, I forget someone in the houses, he had to be affiliated with them. Because you just couldn't walk to Harvard and go to school and then go home every day. Had to go through the house system, had to be assigned to a house. It was actually kind of cool because it forced them to be in the system. Of course, I think there was some discrimination against that particular house because Harvard, as much as anywhere else, is very particular about certain things and what houses and what facilities and the East Building and all that other kind of stuff that goes on over there. But they had a place for every student. BU, coming out of the 60s into the 70s, probably 30–40% of their undergrads were living out in the neighborhood, competing against the neighborhood people. That's what happened. We got wiped out, plus that demographic of the baby boomers just overwhelming society, and so people couldn't compete. It's happening all over the country now. I read those papers from New York. They're moving. The Bronx is like the only place left in New York City where they're holding on. Everywhere else is getting yuppified and gentrified and everything else. It's just, that's the way it is. So Harvard never really influenced the housing market that much. There used to be business school students on my street from time to time, and they rent an apartment in a 3-decker if they had kids. But that was the only people in the housing market. BC, they committed to housing everybody on campus. BU is pretty much the same thing. They have to make a commitment. The community forces them to build it. That's why you go down BU, see those 3 high-rises, 2 high, I forget how many, they're going to get another one coming up at the Aganis, near the Aganis Arena. And they did that because community groups pushed them. Of course, I think the real reason they did it was because you can make some serious money renting those places out to students. So why shouldn't the university get the revenue rather than Joe Schmo, the landlord up the street in Austin? So they you know, there's the story and the story behind the story all the time. So listen, this is wonderful if you people are going to come and get familiar with what we do, and maybe some people will want to help us out a little bit as time goes on with some other stuff. We always can use help, especially if you like to work with little kids, and we have an after-school program in one of the housing projects that we use students to help us with reading programs, and you know, literacy is the big deal with younger kids now, and just if it's just reading to somebody, you know, I mean, the little kids love attention, you know, and they love to have somebody read to them and all that kind of stuff. Anything that you think you might be able to. Do you come from Houston? Do you come from Texas?
Yeah.
I see that bag down there.
Oh, the Dynamos.
Yeah?
I'm from Houston.
Yeah? Okay, well, they like community action down there, I'm sure, you know. Yeah. Where's everybody from? Where are you from?
Northeast Ohio.
Northeast? You?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Harrisburg?
Southern California.
Southern? Yeah, what part?
Orange County.
Orange County? Redneck? Redneck County down there, isn't it? Does it change? No? Used to be famous redneck.
It's famous for being conservative, but
Yeah, right, same thing. More or less. One wing of the conservative party. How about you?
Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, yeah?
Chicago.
Chicago? The city?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what part?
Lincoln Park.
Oh, nice. My son's at University of Chicago.
Houston,
Houston, Texas.
Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Same thing, Los Angeles.
LA, yeah? Wow. What's going on here? The demographic has just been thrown off.
Brighton, Massachusetts.
Brighton, Mass? Get out of here. Did you go to Latin school?
Yes.
Oh, sure. El Alfonso didn't recruit you personally? We got 3 kids in the office that, yeah, class 2, one from class 2, one from class 3, one from class 4.
Oh, then I met them.
Yeah. Zoe, Tracy, and Christina. How about you?
Central New Jersey.
Yeah?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and we do have our share of rednecks there.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're kidding. Ohio? Prophead country, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's good, you know, little Ohio, Pennsylvania, that's, I'm glad to see somebody local there.
Yeah. Did you say Tracy's here? Tracy?
Tracy,
What's her last name?
Loke.
Okay.
No.
I know Tracy.
She actually lives, 2 of the girls live right, like, 5-minute walk from the stadium. They live in Austin. So, a lot of, you know, Latin school has probably got more Harvard students than any school in the country. It always has. Actually, they probably don't want to talk about it, but Latin school is older than Harvard.
About a year. About a year.
Yeah, exactly. And Harvard was started to take care of the people who came out of Latin school. 1635, 1636. Way back. All the, you know, Ben Franklin flunked out of Latin school. But if you go back far enough, you see in the 16, 17 into the age of Transcendentalists and Ralph Waldo Emerson and all that kind of crowd, you know, there's an old bond between that. And actually, I don't know if they tell you this, but Alston and Brighton used to be Little Cambridge. It was actually part of the city of Cambridge in the 1700s into the 1800s, and then it became the town of Brighton. And 1800s, it was annexed by the city of Boston. So it was, and part of Watertown was part of Cambridge too. So there's a long connection, sometimes contentious, but overall a long history. A lot of that land that's just down the street from here was owned by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the poet. All along there, the Turnpike and the Genzyme Science, looks like Frankenstein's house, the Genzyme, that was all owned by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and he sold it to the trustees of the college. If you go back far enough, you see a lot of stuff. Alston, you know the story on Alston, where the Alston name came from? Washington Alston, did anybody ever hear of Washington Alston? He was America's first, well, there's, I think Copley and Stewart that were trained in Britain, but Washington Alston came from South Carolina, an old plantation, high society, southern family. And he came up to Harvard, went to school, he married one of the Yankee Channings, some of those old Yankee families that, were part of the whole history of Harvard. And he was America's first well-known European-trained painter. And he corresponded with William Wordsworth and all the Romantic poets. It was right around the time of all the Romantic poets in England. And, he was in the intelligentsia and all of that. And he had a house across the river, right, just going down Cambridge Street, right to the right. It's called Cambridge Port. It's a neighborhood in Cambridge. Washington also lived down there. He was famous, so this whole place used to be brightened from the river up to the Newton line. And so the post office in the late 1800s opened up a post office in this part of Brighton, and they opened up a train station where the Regina Pizza place is right across the street from here. So they had to have a name. So they had some kind of contest. Who was the most famous person around this area? It was Washington Alston. So they named it Alston. It's the only place in America that's named after a poet. And right, there's an empty piece of land right next to this building here when you go outside. Used to be the Washington Alston School stood there, burned down about 30 years ago. And so, they it's always a little bit of trivia that's good to have in case you meet some local yokel who wants to test your knowledge of the local terrain. You can always tell them about Washington Alston. At least you learned something from this morning. But it's, I don't know how much, everybody's in a house over the other side of the river, is that the way it is? You all, yeah? Because Harvard has come up, they bought over almost close to 300 acres in the last 20 years on this side of the river. And it was a big deal because they did it quietly, clandestinely, surreptitiously, furtively, using straw real estate people to buy up lots and lots of land. Of course, there were two schools of thought. One, they're taking over our neighborhood, and the others were, well, if anybody's going to take it over, why not Harvard? It was all industrial, the pits, all industrial buildings and warehouses and very underutilized real estate in very valuable locations. And a lot of people thought it was only natural that who else is going to get it? Harvard used to own half of it anyway, probably went back to 100 years, they probably only owned it in place then. But lots of struggle between the neighborhood and the university. University has spent millions, I mean, they got money to burn over there on planning what to do with it. And they had this really grandiose scheme. They had architects, the best architects from Europe, flying in and flying out, making drawings. Oh, it was really something to see. And they had tunnels going under the river and canals, where the stadium is, behind the canal from where the soccer field is, behind the stadium. I don't know if people have been around the stadium yet, but all the way over to the river, they have canals, and they have little pictures of Hans Brinker and the Silver Skate skating on the canal. Really cool stuff, in somebody's plan. But the economy fell apart. They had the gigantic science center that they plan to build, you know, the future of biotech and all of this. They were competing with Stanford and Texas for the future of biotech and all of that stuff. And the project has come to a stop because, you know, they had to get the new president, Faust. She came in to try to put all this mess back together again because they lost a lot of money in the market, and they're only down to like 50 billion now. But they took a big hit, and the plans have changed. So they got tons of land all along the river into Alston. It's just sitting there. They don't know what to do. I mean, Harvard, you know what is it? It's getting close to 400 years old. So what's the 50 years to wait and see what happens? I mean, they're thinking 50 and 100-year increments at the university. I mean, literally, that's what they do. They'll have a 10-year plan, or a 25-year plan, and a 50-year plan. And that's what they've done, is just they had the opportunity, the time was right, they had the money, and they just bought up tons of land. They don't have the turnpike down the bottom of the hill. They bought a big chunk of the turnpike. How they did it, I'll never be able to figure it out now, but they bought a turnpike, and they bought the truck, you know, they bought the railroad all the way over to BU almost. So you know, you're here, those of you that are just getting here, it's an exciting time for the university, and when you all get to be rich and successful, they'll be putting the plate on you for donations and big alumni contributions, you know, they'll be tracking you down wherever you are to help support the, you know, the cause. But anything that, I don't know what other funds got on the schedule for people, but whatever you do, we appreciate it very much. Anybody who has time during the year and you want to do some good deeds or, you know, get involved, we appreciate it. I'm sure anybody that's interested in accounting and finance and things like that, we get the tax program, we did a lot of stuff with, we did over 500, 600, close to 600 EITC applications last year, all eligible people, you know, working people underneath the eligibility standard, came in, get the taxes done for free, try to maximize what they could get back in a refund, and it's a big deal to help somebody get that, instead of going into some place on the corner and getting ripped off by someone who doesn't really care all that much about you or your tax situation. So we worked with a lot of students who were accounting, finance people, to get some hands-on experience on the way the tax thing works. So anything, anybody wants to be a lawyer, whatever you want to be. I mean, you want to be a scientist, we'll figure out a way to do something in the daycares, whatever you want to do, you know. I mean, we'll take whatever we can get and be grateful for you taking the time to help us out. And anybody got to do term papers on stuff and you need some communities input, you know, feel free. And I'm always have time for students. What street do you live on in Brighton?
Shannon Street.
Shannon Street?
Mhm.
Did you go to Head Start? Were you in the Head Start with us?
No, I actually wasn't.
No?
Mhm.
Where'd you go to elementary school?
St. Columkills.
St. Columkills? Okay. My mother went to St. Columkills. Small world.
Yeah.
How many Latin school people are there this year?
21 or 22.
How's that coming out of one high school? That's pretty cool, huh? I don't know, how many Stuyvesant? Huh?
That's a lot.
That's also.
Stuyvesant, yeah, how many? I mean, they usually compete.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's only around like.
Well, you know, during, in the old days,
It's a lot.
one school, you know? In the old days, you know, before World War II, you could go to Harvard and go home. There were hundreds of Boston men, you know, young men then, who used to take the streetcar from Mattapan, Dorchester, Rock Street, and go to Harvard for the day and come back. And all they had to do, they went to Boston Latin School, they just walked in the door. That was the relationship. I mean, it was really like that. I mean, Latin School lost it during there was a period of time where there was a lot of problems in the city of Boston, in the school department and in the city in general, and the school kind of started to fall apart. And the alumni came to the rescue. And so now that's why you can get 22 kids in there. They get special treatment. It's politics too. The mayor said, Harvard, you want to build those big buildings? Take care of more of my students. We have an old school mayor, you know, that will break your arm if you don't give him a little something if you want to do something in his city. So that's how it works. But Ohio's pretty well represented. Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think it has a representative.
Really?
Well, I mean,
Did you go to private school or did you go to public school?
public.
Yeah. Good for you. What about Columbus?
I went to public school as well. I was thinking the first year of the program, I think there are 5 people from Ohio total, so the fact that 3 of us with this group is kind of weird. But
Good Republican stock maybe there. Yeah, Ohio used to be a big Republican. Robert
Good
Taft.
market stuff.
Yeah, it's shifted a little now, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that guy's in trouble down the shore with Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that young governor.
Yeah. I follow that stuff in politics, you know, it's very important in my world and my business stuff to know. I mean, odd as it is, everybody likes to think the liberals and the Democrats and the Warren Puppy and all that stuff, but we had some of our best days under Reagan. Don't ask me how, but, you know, we did, you know, it's funny how things work in politics, but we had, you know, he tried to knock us out of business, tried to completely zero us out of the budget. But our congressman from here was Tip O'Neill, who was running toe-to-toe with Reagan every day. And we ended up doing okay with him. Our biggest supporters in the 70s were Republican senators from Oregon, Hatfield, Packwood, Oregon, Washington. Because these programs that just help people, will fall asleep on the end. These programs, they're everywhere. So if you're a Tea Party, wipe out the government, except for the military. If you're that kind of a candidate, and you're running this year, then the people like us from our programs are going to be in your face, in your office, when you come home, talking about, you can't cut. You saw what happened to, what's his name, Ryan, the other day? It turns out that, you know, he voted against all the stimulus packages and all of that, but his office was writing letters to the Washington bureaucracy asking for grants, because that's how it works. I mean, he can even say, well, I was against it, but since it got passed anyway, why shouldn't my people benefit too? I mean, he can have his cake and eat it too. But the fact of the matter is, the farm country where, you know, like in the middle of the country where people tend to be conservative, you know, socially and everything else, there's lots of federal programs that are kind of connected to our world. It's got food programs and all that kind of stuff that those Congress people got to deliver on. So those Tea Party people, you know, this is going to be the first time we see how they do in this November with dealing with programs that help people. So, you know, Tip O'Neill was famous for saying all politics is local. Nobody ever was quite sure what the heck he meant by that, but I think what it boils down to is you can be the Speaker of the House of the United States, House of Representatives, but you still got to go home and you still got to hear what the natives have to say. And if you want to keep your job, you've got to accommodate. So that's why it's important to be involved in, no matter, you know, whether it's when you're in school at Harvard or when you go home or when you go on with your life, to stay active. The worst thing is that people don't participate. You know, there's so many people coming to the country this last 25 years that don't have a history of democratic participation. A lot of countries, they have dictatorships, you know, some kind of, you know, everything is just taken care of. There's no, I mean, it's a problem because you need to learn how to do that. You need to know that you're not supposed to stay home on election day. Oh, it doesn't make any difference. It's all the same. They're all a bunch of crooks anyway. You know, you have to be at that point where you say, okay, I got to go in there and vote, hold my nose and vote for somebody who's going to be the least dangerous to my way of thinking. We're all supposed to vote for what's good for the country, what's best for all of us. You know, most people vote for what's best for them, but you're supposed to try to crank it up a little and do the right thing for all of us together as a country. My biggest fear is it seems like, you know, fewer and fewer people want to get involved, you know? And vote, even just vote for crying out loud, you know? Half the people that could vote, that's it. It's ridiculous. So, get out there, get involved, get involved. Anybody involved in any of the campaigns for the president? Anybody involved in any stuff yet?
I see your name,
Yeah? Let me guess who you with.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I do a lot of voter registration drives.
At home or here?
Actually, some in DC, some in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah? Harrisburg?
Yeah.
Aren't they broke?
Yeah.
Did they solve that problem? I mean, they were like one of the first big cities in, you know, in the country that was going to, they filed for bankruptcy?
Yeah.
Terrible, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's the future too, all these pensions that they don't have any money to pay for. Chicago, it's all coming out that, they voted all these big pensions for themselves and everybody else, and there's no money to pay for them. You guys are gonna have to carry all these old truckers that are coming along, they got these big pensions from, they voted themselves these, you know, nice deals. You know, that's a problem. Unfunded liability. That's what, they don't carry it on their books, that they owe millions, every city, state, town, municipality in the country has promised these people my age and coming up a little bit after me, pensions and health plans, that they don't have money to pay for them. That's gonna be a big problem. We'll see how that's gonna play out in November, because this issue of Social Security and the way Romney and Ryan have sort of said, oh, okay, all you people that are 55 and older, you don't have to worry about, because we're not going to do anything for you. It's the crowd coming up after that that's got to really pay attention. Because people your age, I mean, you know, I always knew that I had Social Security if I worked and I paid into it, and it's an insurance. That's what Social Security is. It's an insurance. You should have your own money. You should save your own money. You should put money away for when you're old, because believe me, it will come soon enough. But, you know, the pensions, like the old style pensions, you're not going to see those anymore. Some kind of 401ks and savings plan. They're going to expect you to save your own money to take care of yourself when you're old. And Social Security was always like, I think I saw figures where 50-60% of the people that are my age that are starting to retire, they don't have any savings. All they're going to have is Social Security. That's like $300 a week, maybe $400 a week if you're lucky. So, you know, you guys should be like on your toes about the future. Let me tell you, because you know, we're going to leave you all in the hole big time. All right, thanks. Thanks for bearing with me. I don't know. I hope you learned something. Thank you.